Life started in a place where people thought life was impossible. It started in underwater volcanoes, in fire. However, life cannot just spontaneously appear underwater in volcanoes. So, how did life come to Earth? Life was probably formed when two molecules, one from outer space and one from Earth, collided. And the one from outer space could have been our moon or some other sort of asteroid. When these two molecules collided, they created a self-replicating molecule. And this molecule kept on changing and changing and changing so that it can replicate faster and into better forms. This self-replicating molecule was known as RNA. This RNA slowly morphed into something called DNA. DNA was present in the first ever living cell. In order to keep making copies of itself, DNA, or the first living cell, needed energy to do so. So they harnessed energy from volcanic soup that was spewed out of underwater volcanoes. This was when life first started to eat. But life still has to go a very long way to get to where we are right now. Life was extremely successful in its early stages, but because of this, there was competition between cells. So to avoid this, they started spreading out. And when they did, they started evolving and adapting to their surroundings so that they can adjust better. Cells that lived in warmer waters were slightly different from the ones which lived in colder waters. And they started changing really quickly. That's how life or evolution was initially. It was extremely fast-paced, and life changed at every given moment. This gave variety to the cells. This variety led to proper evolution, where species actually began changing their forms into something completely different from what they started with. They started moving away from the template they were born with. This is when life started flourishing. For most of the Earth's life, this was what was happening. Species became different species. They weren't complicated and couldn't do much. That was until a major breakthrough happened, when multicellular beings came into play. The first multicellular being probably formed when a much bigger cell swallowed a smaller cell and they started living in a symbiotic relationship. This made room for infinite possibilities, when living beings could have organs that control separate parts of their bodies, and these organs could do anything from digesting food to controlling every other organ in the body. This breakthrough changed the way life would evolve. According to modern biologists and new research, the first biological unit that you could consider an animal was a comb jellyfish. This was surprising because most people thought that the first living animals would be sponges because of their simplicity. But the first living animals were surprisingly complex, like jellyfish, and had numerous ways to capture food and reproduce. We have come so far from a simple comb jellyfish to a species that has colonized basically the entire planet and is slowly making use of it. I have a podcast all about evolution, and this is the first episode in it. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it in the description. Thank you.